Okay, my passage is on page 209, and it starts pretty much at the top where it says before mom left. Uh, what is going on right now is Jeanette's mom is going out of town for 8 weeks to renew her teaching certificate, and she's pretty much going to leave all the responsibility to Jeanette while she's gone. And I chose this passage because I thought it was really interesting how earlier in the book, Jeanette and Lori were both kind of criticizing their mother on how they didn't really understand how she could just let the father take advantage of their family so much, and how she just gives him money whenever he asks for it to go get booze when she knows that's what he's going to do. And they were telling her that she needed to be kind of more of like a stern woman who would stick up for herself and stick up for the rest of the family, and tell her father no because that's what he needed to kind of get him in shape. And all right, so I'm going to start reading. Before Mom left, she gave me $200. That was plenty, she said, to buy food for Brian and Maureen and me for 2 months and pay the water and electricity bills. I did the math. It came out to $25 a week, or a little over $3.50 a day. I worked up a budget and calculated that we could indeed squeak by if I made a little extra money babysitting. Now, this is where my literary feature of symbolism first comes in. It's when Jeanette's talking about paying the water and electricity bills. In this passage, I think that the bills symbolize responsibility and kind of like being the head of the family and having all the pressure on your back uh, to take care of everyone else. And this is where she first kind of like has to take initiative, and she starts making a plan in her head and makes a budget. So she's trying to make things run smoothly while her mother's gone to prove to herself, I think, that she can do it and that it is possible. Um, for the first week, everything went according to plan. I bought food and made meals for Brian, Maureen, and me. It had been almost a year since the welfare man had scared us into cleaning the house, and it was once again an unholy mess. Mom would have had a fit if I had thrown anything out, but I spent hours straightening up and trying to organize the huge stacks of junk. Once again, she's kind of just being a responsible person, or trying to be at least, and she's straightening up the house for the rest of her family. Um, Dad usually stayed out at night until we were in bed, and he would still be asleep when we got up and left in the morning. But one afternoon, about a week after Mom had gone to Charleston, he caught me alone in the house. Hun, I need some money, he said. For what? Beer and cigarettes. I've got sort of a tight budget, Dad. I don't need much, just $5. And this is where you can kind of see that the roles are switched, whereas it should be, in most families at least, the children who are asking the parents for money to go out and do whatnot. Hopefully not beers and cigarettes, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. Now it's actually the dad asking the daughter for money to go waste it on whatnot, and this is kind of Jeanette's first opportunity to shut him down. But that was 2 days worth of food, a half-gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, and a dozen eggs, two cans of Jack, two cans of Jack mackerel, a small bag of apples, and some popcorn. And Dad wasn't even doing me the honor of pretending that he needed the money for something useful. He also didn't argue or wheedle or cajole something, or ratchet or ratchet the charm way up. He simply waited for me to fork over the cash, as if he knew I didn't have it in me to say no, and I didn't. I took out my green plastic change purse and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and passed it over slowly. And this is what I was saying earlier. When she gets the opportunity to shut her father down and kind of be the stern woman that she was talking about, she can't do it. And I think this is the first appeal to both logos and pathos in that little paragraph right there, because at the top she was thinking with kind of the logical part of her brain, and in turn it kind of like went out to the reader, where she was saying that was 2 days worth of food and going over what she could have bought with that money. But it was also kind of like tugging on the pathos part of her brain, because it was her father, and he was expecting him to he was expecting her to fork over the money because basically it's family, and that's what I guess you do. "You're a doll," Dad said, and gave me a kiss. I pulled my head back. Giving that money pissed me off. I was mad at myself, but even madder at Dad. He knew I had a soft spot for him. Pathos. The way no one else in my family did, and he was taking advantage of it. I felt used. The girls at school always talked about how this or that guy was a user and how such and such girl got used. And now I understood, from deep inside, the meaning of that word. When Dad asked me for another $5 a few days later, I gave it to him. It made me feel sick, thinking that I was now $10 out of budget. In a few more days, he asked for 20, and now he's kind of like really pushing her for the money and using his advantage of pathos, I suppose. $20? I couldn't believe Dad was pushing me this far. Why 20? God damn it! Since when do I have to explain myself to my children? Dad asked. In the next breath, he told me that he had borrowed a friend's car and needed to buy gas so he could drive to Gary for a business meeting. I need money to make money. I'll pay you back. He looked at me, defying me to disbelieve him. I've got bills piling up, I said. I heard my voice growing shrill, but I couldn't control it. I've got kids to feed. And once again, the bills symbolize responsibility, and she kind of, right now, she's feeling the responsibility kind of like pushing down on her back, and she's getting stressed out and increasingly getting more mad at her father because, once again, he's pulling the family back where she's trying to kind of set things straight. Don't worry about food and bills, Dad said. That's for me to worry about, okay? And again, this is role switching because where it should actually be the dad who's worrying about the food and bills, but in reality it's Jeanette and it's Dad who's just going to use the money to go out and buy more booze. I put my hand in my pocket. I didn't know if I was reaching for the money or trying to protect it. And this is the logos and ethos battling in her brain, because the logical side of her brain knows that she shouldn't do it because they need the money to feed the family and to pay the bills. But the pathos says that she needs to give the money to her dad because it is her dad, and you're supposed to listen to your dad in most situations. Have I ever let you down? Dad asked. I'd heard that question at least 200 times, and I'd always answered it the way I knew he wanted me to, because I thought it was my faith in Dad that had kept him going all these years. I was about to tell him the truth for the first time, about to let him know that he'd let us down plenty, but then I stopped. I couldn't do it. Dad, meanwhile, was saying that he was not asking me for the money. He was telling me to give it to him. He needed it. I did think he was a liar, and he said he'd get it back to me. I gave him the $20. And again, this is just the pathos wins again in Jeanette's mind. And yeah, in this passage you can really see how when Jeanette wasn't kind of like the one in charge of all the responsibilities and the one with the money, she thought it was so easy to tell her father no and to kind of set things straight with him. But when she's put in the position to do exactly that, she can't do it because it's just hard when it's someone you love, I guess, asking you for something. It's hard to say no. And yes, that was my passage analysis.